Memorial Day weekend is the unofficial start of summer, and it's like clockwork. Everyone is taking their boat out for the weekend. Want to give you some very good safety tips. We are going to go over recommended versus required gear you need before you head out on this week's Real Talk. Welcome into this week's Real Talk. I'm Amanda Holly, your host here from WFLA News Channel 8. It is Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial start of summer. We are all excited to take our boats out once again. Everything's, the weather's heating up. It's a little bit nicer out there, but want to make sure you are safe out on the water. Last week, we talked all about life jackets and the different types that you need. This week, we are talking about the gear that is required and some recommended gear as well. Joining me to talk about some of these things is Captain Peg Phillips with the National Safe Boating Council. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we got a lot of show and tell to do today. I'm very excited, but really want to start with the required gear. Obviously, let's briefly touch on life jackets because that is the number one thing you want to have on your boat.
Yeah, so life jackets, the law is the carriage requirement, right? So that is that you have a life jacket on your vessel that is U.S. Coast Guard approved and that is appropriately sized for every person that's on that vessel. We want to take that one step further, and we'd really like people to buy a life jacket that they're going to wear, right? Not just one that they're going to stow for carriage requirements.
We talked so much about that last week about, the new types of life jackets that they have. They're so comfortable. You can wear them all the time, and truly they're going to help you in an emergency. They're on your person, and they're right there. So they make it very easy. So some of the other things, though, that we are required to have on our boat, let's talk about some of these things, right? Let's talk about flares.
Yeah. So there are a couple of different options when it comes to flares. So these are the traditional pyrotechnic flares. The thing about these to check for is the expiration date, and it's usually printed on the actual flare, not the package. So you have to kind of roll them around a little bit to check that. They may sit on a shelf in a retail store for a little while, so you want to make sure that when you're buying it, you still have some time on those, right? Another problem with this type of flare is the disposal of this.
Yes.
What are you going to do with it once it does expire? So we do have some alternatives to this that we can talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about those because visual distress signals are very important to have on your boat. So flares are just one type of that, but you have a couple examples here of permanent ones because I'll say we have a lot of flares that are expired and haven't done anything with them.
Yeah, really difficult to dispose of. So an alternative for boaters is an electronic visual distress signal, and this as long as it's U.S. Coast Guard approved, it does meet the carriage requirement, okay? This does not expire. It is a little bit more of an investment, obviously, but you don't have to ever buy one again. I do want the viewers to note on the label here, it will have to say U.S. Coast Guard approved.
Okay.
And the reason I point that out is we are seeing some counterfeit devices sold on e-commerce. So if you see an electronic visual distress signal like 3 for $29, they're going to be fake. Okay. So you want to make sure it's U.S. Coast Guard approved, has to be on here, and it will flash the SOS signal. Let's go ahead and do that. It's pretty bright.
It is so bright.
It's very bright.
Which you want it to be.
Exactly. So, alert other vessels nearby that you need assistance. And hopefully you've got some communication devices, which we're going to talk a little bit about, and you've already notified the authorities. So it's a great way for them to find you.
Absolutely. And so I have, let's see. What did I do with it? Maybe it's still in my bin here. I have a visual distress signal, but it's not necessarily Coast Guard approved. I don't know what I did with it. It's here. Right here. Yeah. It's not necessarily Coast Guard approved, but something that you can have on your life jacket if you fall in the water. And it's a smaller one, obviously. But again, anything to grab that attention. It's bright even in the daytime. And these are nice and small that you can wear on you, on your life jacket, on those inflatable ones that we talked about earlier. All right. Some of the other required safety gear, fire extinguishers.
Fire extinguishers are required. You want to make sure, especially this time of year when people are getting the boats ready for the summer, right? Make sure it's in good working condition. Check that expiration date. because that is one of the things that will definitely be checked during a boating safety check.
Absolutely. And a couple other things required. Sound producing device.
Sound producing device could be a
whistle.
These safety whistles,
Yeah.
rescue whistles, which are really, really loud. Okay, so just if your kids get a hold of these, just know they're going to be very, very loud. But it also could be the horn that's on the boat as well.
Okay.
But yeah, you do have to have these. So I attach something like this to my life jacket. We're talking about attaching the light. I attach this to my life jacket as well, especially if I'm paddling.
Yes.
And I see a boat coming towards me, and I think, I don't think they see me.
Oh,
I
that's
give
interesting.
that whistle a good blast just so they can say, okay,
Get their attention.
Alerted, there's a kayaker in front of you.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that advice. All right, last thing, engine cutoff switch.
Engine cutoff switch, really important. So, and that is now the law. Started as a federal law, now is a state law in Florida. So this is that red lanyard you're going to see up at the helm that will attach to the key, and then you attach it to the boat operator, right? If the operator, for any reason, gets displaced from the helm, so a wave comes and throws you overboard, you have a medical event, for any reason they're displaced from the helm, this will pull out of the ignition, the engine will stop. Why is that important? If an operator is displaced from the helm, the boat will start circling, and it will run until it runs out of gas.
Right.
And that is very dangerous, most especially if that boat operator or passengers are in the middle of that circle.
Right, because you have no control then over where that boat's moving.
Yeah, it could hit other boats. It could strike people. We've seen propeller strikes, and it can be very deadly. So very easy just to attach this. There are also wireless devices.
I was just going to go there, yes.
Yeah, there are wireless devices available. Mercury has one. If you have a Mercury engine, it's called First Mate. ACR has one. The Guardian, that is kind of more generic. So there are some different ones out there that require just a little bit of installation, but again, not really expensive. You can put it on the boat operator. You can put it on your passengers. You can even put it on your pet.
There you go. All the options, they make it so easy for you to be safe out on the water. Is there anything else that's required on, your average vessel that people are going to be taking out?
I would say communication device. So I see you've got that VHF radio there. Of course, almost everybody has a smartphone, right?
Yes.
The problem with relying on your phone is that if it gets wet, or if you don't have a signal, you're kind of out of luck, right? So it's good to have that radio. The other thing about the radio is on channel 16, you can hear what other boaters might be saying. So maybe if they see a log in the water or a navigation aid that is missing, they can alert other boaters to what's going on.
And these will give you the weather and things like that too, which is really nice. One thing, it's always important to check the weather on when those storms are coming in, because we live in Florida. We know those storms are going to develop. So very important to always check the forecast.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then so some of the recommended gear that's not necessarily required, but nice to have out on the water. I always say a bilge pump and an anchor. Extremely important that you should probably have on your boat. I mean, I'm kind of surprised it's not required, but here we are.
Yeah. So let's talk about that anchor. Some people buy the anchor, but then they never learn how to use it. And we did have an incident in Virginia a couple of years ago where the family dropped the anchor, thought that they were stationary, right? The kids jumped into the water to cool off, but the boat was not anchored fully, and the boat drifted away from the children, and we did have drownings from that. So you want to make sure that anchor is set.
Yeah.
Some great videos online about how to make sure you're dropping that anchor properly.
Yeah, and there's lots of different types of anchors too that all require a little different setting. So definitely when you buy an anchor, make sure it's the right size for your boat and make sure you know how to use it for sure. All right, some of the other really just nice things to have on your boat here. Personal locator beacon.
Yeah, so personal locator beacon, sometimes we hear about stories of people, especially going offshore, and the boat just goes missing.
Yeah.
Or the people get somehow thrown overboard and they go missing. So I attach this to my life jacket.
Yes.
That way, if I am displaced from that vessel and I can't get back on, I've registered this beacon. I can activate it, and hopefully within an hour, I'm seeing a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter come over me, right?
GPS coordinates are sent to the Coast Guard. They know exactly where you're at. There's no communication with this, but they know where you're at if they need to come get you, which is really helpful. Going back to communication, I was just gonna say, let's talk about this real quick before we take a quick break.
Yeah, so this is a different personal locator beacon. It's the Garmin inReach, and this one does allow for two-way communication, so I can text out, I can receive text. The only thing about this one is it does require a subscription. So.
And a lot of times I say, with some of these other recommended things that are a little on the pricier side, if you want to go out, it's best to have some of these things, even though they do require, maybe a subscription, or it is a little pricier to have some of them. It's just really important to stay safe. Most of them, once you buy it, it's not necessarily a required subscription. It's a one-time fee, but, safety, peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to invest in a boat, you hear about people buying a several $100,000 boat,
right,
and this is a several $100 beacon, right, to save your life, right?
Absolutely. All right, we are going to take a quick break right here on Real Talk and be right back with a few more tips for you. Welcome back into this week's Real Talk. We are talking all about recommended gear versus required gear to have on your boat. This is, of course, all ahead of and with Memorial Day weekend. It's probably one of the 3 busiest weekends on the water where people take their boat out. It's the first weekend, really busy weekend out on the water. People might be taking their boat out for the first time this year, and they're coming across all these things that might be expired. So I wanted to hop on here and tell you about all the things you need and some of the things that are just really nice to have. One thing that is not necessarily a law to have, really important though, sunscreen.
Yeah, Florida, the sun is no joke here, right? And there's so many different brands, but you want to get a really high SPF,
sure,
and then apply throughout the day, obviously, as you're swimming or perspiring, especially for kiddos. It is so easy. You've got the sun coming down on you and then reflecting off the water.
Yes.
So it is really easy to get sunburned out there. And one little tip that I learned from my dermatologist is, I'm wearing an SPF shirt, which is what I boat in. And I thought that this was enough, so I don't need to wear sunscreen. She said, no, in Florida, you still need to apply this on your back and shoulders.
It is rough here. That UV index is so high because the sun is so high in the sky. So incredibly important to wear sunscreen. Entire body, all day long as you head out. It's nice to put it on before you head out, before you get really sweaty, honestly. Yeah. That way it sticks a little bit better, let it soak in, and then again, reapply throughout the day as well. An interesting piece of technology that you have sitting over there is a sensor. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, so, I'm old enough to know what a pager looked like. This is kind of the size of a pager, very lightweight, something that has a little clip on the back. You can attach this to your belt or to your life jacket. And this is a carbon monoxide detector, and you'll be happy to know there's 0 carbon monoxide in your building.
I like to hear that.
So you're very safe in this building. The magic number, as far as OSHA is concerned, is 50 parts per million.
Okay.
So if I'm on the boat, it gets to 50, this will start beeping, vibrating to alert me, right? And that could mean that maybe I have been in a no-wake zone for a long time, a manatee zone, for example. It's a very calm day, not a lot of wind. So carbon monoxide has had an opportunity to kind of build up on the vessel. So this goes off, just speed up for just a second, clear the boat. If it were to continue to rise, the number, you may have a mechanical issue, and any sustained period of time above that 50 parts per million can cause someone to get sick, or it actually could cause a fatality as well. The other thing about carbon monoxide is odorless, tasteless. So this is the only way you could really detect it, right? We wouldn't know it was happening. And the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, very similar to seasickness.
Okay.
So especially with kiddos who have the smaller lung capacity, if they're starting to say, I don't feel well, I've got a headache, I'm getting nauseated, It might be seasickness, but you also might have some carbon monoxide.
Very
building up on
good
the
tip
muscle.
there. Yeah, make sure they get out in the open wind and kind of clear that air for sure. Let's talk about some rain gear that you have on display for us, because we do live in Florida. You know, yes, there are thunderstorms that happen. The ideal situation is that we don't get caught in a thunderstorm, but at some point or the other, it's happened to me. You get caught in at least a shower. And so it's kind of nice to have a raincoat, because even though it's summertime, it's hot, it can be a little cool.
Yeah, so, the big thing about checking the weather, and then my second thing is heed that weather warning, right? So get up, watch your news, get the weather for the day. Even if it's your only day off, if the weather looks bad, go find another activity. It's just not worth taking the risk. But yeah, I always carry some rain gear with me. Now, this is a Mustang Survival Life Jacket, which is really going to protect me from the wind and rain. But we also have options. We also have options for, you can buy these at any hardware store, a full rain suit for just a few dollars. So I keep these on my boat as well. If you are an avid boater and even a responsible boater and you're going to check that weather, I can promise you're still going to get caught in the rain.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, we live in Florida and things do happen. So it's important to have that, because, if you get caught out there for some reason, it is not fun to be wet. You know what I mean? So it's nice to have some of that gear as well. Looks like you have some gloves and one other thing to show us before we wrap up today's episode.
Just another sun protection. A lot of different brands of these gloves that you can buy. To just kind of protect your hands out there. And this is it's actually a streamer. So if you can attach this to a life jacket as well. So just another way to make yourself more visible, right?
You're really small in the water to a higher plane.
Yeah. So this comes out in a very long orange streamer. Just to kind of alert somebody that you are in the water. So
that's awesome stuff. We have had and gone over a lot of things. I have a lot. We have 2 bags that we bring with us, whether we're going inshore to the sandbar or we're going offshore. We always have our 2 boxes with us to take with us, and a lot of things we have in there from experience or just to have on hand. These are little wooden pegs that we keep in our box in case you spring a leak, have a hole somewhere. There's a bunch of different sizes in there, and you never know when you're going to need something like that. So a lot of stuff, a lot of recommended gear, but certainly without a doubt, make sure you have the required gear on your boat before you go out this weekend.
Yeah, and great reminder, as people are getting those boats ready, make sure that plug is in.
Before you get to the boat ramp. It's really nice to do that before you're backing in and then you got to pull out, and then there's a long line waiting. We've been there. Y'all, we've all been there, but a nice reminder is always a good thing. Thank you so much, Captain Phillips, for joining me today to talk about some of this stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, and everybody have a safe, wonderful summer.
Absolutely. I agree. Couldn't agree more. If you missed any of this that we went over today, the required versus recommended gear, you can always rewatch these Real Talk podcasts on the free WFLA streaming app for your TV or wherever you watch your podcasts from, YouTube, Spotify. It's all there. We will see you next week on Real Talk.